So there was a massive gap between the group I was walking on the ground and to the right of the screen. I would have swarmed across it and continued walking to the right, but due to huge massive bamboos in the way, there was nowhere to go. Two creatures wore glittering magnets on their arms and lampering like mouths were perched on outstretched vines and screeching at me, much like a cow does to an vendor of its terribility. Another unexpected display of a possible sentence by the creature of this game, if it eventually occurred to refer them to as being of the game. That is, it started into the blood, slowly sinking to the floor. Aquatic enemies was everywhere, and they were hard to avoid. The black shark in particular was very aggressive and hard to deal with, but thankfully I only encountered one. As the scene became more and more crowded, I swam up to the surface to find that it was literally filled with floating corpses. Creepy, but at least they're not a threat, or so I thought. Until they all sprang up to life and leaped on me. They were trying to pull me under, and they were draining my health. As they did, they all attacked as a group. And when I got one off me, another one would jump on from behind. I had to curl up into a ball and roll for them to loosen their grip. And when they did, I quickly retreated. It wasn't long before I had reached another land path. A note regarding the brambles. You can stand on them, but it causes pain, and you can also destroy some of the vines, but only the thinner ones. I had destroyed multiple vines, as well as dealing with more enemies. I was interrupted by the screen. The screen was only for about 30 seconds. Then when I went back to the level, I was facing another dead end, and a pregnant humble creature began to tap right off the screen by a spine chromacor. Instantly, the creature's belly was split open from the inside. And as the lower part of his body was ripped apart and fell into the river below, the blood lake spots was revealed. It came flying towards me, making a shrill, hacking scream. I was forced to move back. The bat was a highly mobile boss, fast and difficult to hit. As I moved back along the ground, the monster opened its mouth and shot out a barrage of needles. I jumped over them, managed to give it a blow to the head, and started it flying out of my reach. As the bat was flying, it shot a stream of fire from its eye sockets and started trying to hit me, but with its flames, I rolled along the ground, which drained my power, but put us at equal speed. The cycle repeated around 3 times until the monster was defeated. With most health of mine drained, I went back to the edge of the level, and the large bamboo vine blocking the exit was now gone. Now only 2 levels left to go. Who to this time, Godzilla, Mothra, and Angus had all completed 1 level, leaving Soul Man and also the mysterious 5th monster. I tried again to access it, but with no luck, I chose to use Godzilla again for the next level, the Soul Man for the final one. The second to last level was what I refer to as the organic level, which was the most visually unpleasant of them all.
I know.
Right from the start, I could see the graphics were freakishly different. The atmosphere was gruesome and foreboding. That was the addition of the loud droning music. I was dreading what I would see in these levels, and it was only a few seconds before something appeared. 2 hideous things. It's hard to describe most of this level. Everything has this disturbing semi-real look to it. Most of the enemies took halfway between real animals and resembled lumps of gore with teeth. It's also worth noting that all of them were constantly larger than Godzilla, and although the majority were not very intelligent, each of them took around 30 plus hits to kill. And due to this, it was a better idea to run away from them than to fight them, but it was never clearly exactly what direction to run in. While most levels involved going to the right to get to the exit, the path of this level was primarily going down. You were going to the right way, nor any apparent meanings of getting back up to the higher platforms if necessary. Also, certain enemies attacked as if they were aware you had jumped down and would stand at the edge of a lower platform waiting for you. When this happened, I would have to walk back and wait until the monster would leave. As I went on, I came across the platforms stacked above each other with little space in between, looking like a maze. This meant that I couldn't jump, and it meant escape from enemies difficult. Thankfully, the only enemy able to fit through these mazes were the four-legged beasts. At the beginning of the level, adding to the difficulty were long tapeworm squeeze monsters that would rise themselves up between the platforms and trap you. The only attack they responded to was the heat beam, which would cause them to shrink back down. But this was costing even more power, and I couldn't afford to do it without the heat beam for long. While trying to avoid the abominations that dwell in this level, I found out that if you stand idle in one place for too long, the ground tries to absorb your monster. I think it was about 4 minutes before the end of this level was making me physically sick. The tension was getting to me, and having to take in all these disgusting sights made me want to puke. I nearly did pause the game and look for a bag, but I was able to hold it together. I also found a trick at the end of the level. Though it was too late to do me any real good, if two different species of monster to run to each other face to face, they would fight each other and leave me alone. I didn't intentionally use this. It just happened. Finally, at the end, it was time for another boss fight. It was certainly ugly, but not quite as horrific as I feared it would be. But more important than dealing with its appearance was defeating it. And since I had a lot less half my health bar to start with, there was no room for arrows. It was attached to the floor when I first saw it, but after 10 hits, it detached from the floor and began floating. It moved fast, and unlike the blood lakes, the boss didn't. He wasn't impeded by any sort of gravity. It was even able to fly through the ground without any collision effect. It used this to its advantage and would float beneath the ground and spring up randomly to bite at you. But it stopped doing this after a few well-aimed kicks to the face. The pink area it's the upper jaw's weak point. Too many hits there would cause its hands uncontrollable. The new strategy was to rapidly float up and down while moving back and forth across the stage, trying to constantly keep its jaws aimed toward me. And health was getting critical at this point, and I spammed the heat beam from which it had no defense. And in the last stretch of the battle, the monster had lost its mind, rapidly rushing back and forth and against its jaws. I had to duck under it, and then strike when its back turned. 20 more hits, and it was destroyed. One last level to go, and then it was down to the last level. I didn't hesitate. I selected Soul Man and entered, perhaps a little too fast. And this, the last level, definitely the peak of disconnected between what the NES was graphically capable of and what the game could create. The music also caught my attention. It was one of the only songs that appeared more than once. The horrible screeching from when the hell beast appeared in the graveyard. As soon as I started, there was already an enemy prepared to attack, a sentinel wielding whip, and it wasn't alone. When I started fighting, several more creatures appeared, coming from both sides of the screen at the same time. It was too much to handle. Soul Man's fight saved me from taking too much damage at the start of the level. The creatures followed after, but seemed to be unable to jump. After escaping the sinners, I noticed gaps in the ground. While trying to avoid the jumping sword-mouthing enemies in the mid-fight, I got close to the surface of the lava, and a creature emerged and tried to grab me. It didn't succeed, but I was startled. Carefully maneuvering would be needed to avoid instant death here. As new enemies appeared, the level soon became very difficult. A lot of trouble came from stocky red demons that stood on top of tall, narrow mountains and spewed fire. I got by them by waiting till their back was turned and hitting them while flying a kick, which made them fall into lava. This time I noticed that there was gained any help from killing enemies. And not all the ground was stable. At one point, the ground was reducing to small chunks that slowly drifted towards the right. Some of them would sink into the lava upon landing on them, and there was no way to tell which ones would sink and which would not. Being so close to the lava added the threat of lava creatures, and this was very frustrating. I was also feeling very hot, which made contrasty hard. If you've ever had a heat rash, if it felt similar to that, I had particularly stopped for water because of it. That was almost certainly due to the game and not my imagination. But I kept pushing through the thought out of my head. I didn't want to think about it. At the end of the stage, I encountered the boss rising the lava. Its arrival noted with an ugly howling roar. Oh, and also, guys, this may be a two-parter, yeah. This is probably going to be, this is probably going to be a three-parter, since I'm only halfway through the chapter now, so, yeah, this is a long chapter, so bye, guys.